We've got a Big Ten Media Days contingent to discuss off the top with you tonight. Iowa football today unveiling its contingent that it will be sending out to Big Ten Media Days at the end of next month, July 24th, Big Ten Media Days. And as you can see from lovely Las Vegas, Nevada, that is where Big Ten Media Days will be held in 2025. And you look and you see right there, what do you see? You see a couple, several items that will define this Iowa 2025 football season. A couple of sixth-year returnees for the Hawkeyes, Logan Jones, Ethan Herkit, who each had decisions to make. And Logan Jones and Ethan Herkit, in true Hawkeye fashion, they made the decision to return to Iowa. Think about those two guys. Logan Jones, the offensive representative for the Hawkeyes coming up at Big Ten Media Days end of next month. Logan Jones, somebody that has started all of the past 3 seasons for the Hawkeyes, now has played 39 games, 38 starts across his Hawkeye career, and was one of the key pieces for Iowa in putting together the season that was for Caleb Johnson, a season for Caleb Johnson where he rushed for nearly 1,600 yards. Obviously, Caleb Johnson set single-season Hawkeye records for total points with 138 total points, 23 total touchdowns, and the 21 rushing touchdowns for Caleb Johnson a season ago. And Logan Jones alongside some of those familiar faces up front for Iowa. Some of the returnees we've talked about over the course of this offseason, the Bo Stevens of the world, the Jennings Dunkers of the world, those guys that were there to lay the foundation for this now Tim Lester era of Iowa offensively. So Logan Jones, the offensive representative for the Hawkeyes coming up at Big Ten Media Days. Again, he helped play a significant role in Caleb Johnson morphing into what Caleb Johnson and the Hawkeye rushing attack, what it morphed into a season ago. And you're hoping that that experience in the center of this Iowa offensive line from center Logan Jones, that is a big-time piece for Tim Lester, for Kirk Ferentz, and for ultimately Mark Gronowski in changing the fortunes for this Iowa offense and becoming more explosive in 2025. So Logan Jones, the offensive representative for the Hawkeyes. Defensively, the first name, Ethan Herkit, to Big Ten Media Days for the Hawkeyes down again in Las Vegas. Ethan Herkit, somebody that has been a big part of what Iowa has done each of the past 2 seasons. 2023, 2024, that's when his career really ramped up for the Hawkeyes. And, of course, last season, all of his 13 starts for Ethan Herkit, the Hawkeye defensive end, came a season ago. But Ethan Herkit, in his career, 127 tackles, 20 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and so much of that production coming over the last, really, almost the entirety of it coming over the past 2 seasons, and a lot of it coming over the course of last season when he was a starter for the Hawkeyes. 1 interception, 1 pass defensed as well for Ethan Herkit in his Hawkeye career. So of that production for Ethan Herkit in his career so far, 108 tackles, 17.5 TFLs, 6.5 sacks, and all 3 of those forced fumbles coming over the course of the last 2 seasons, and those 3 forced fumbles all last year for Ethan Herkit. So what did Iowa send to Big Ten Media Days? Well, they sent a couple of true Hawkeyes, guys that made that decision to come back to the program, right? Probably in Logan Jones and in Ethan Herkit, each could have had professional futures after last season. And anymore, I guess college football is a little bit of professional football, minor league football maybe to some degree. But, hey, they could have gone and they could have made that jump to professional football. Would Logan Jones, would Ethan Herkit have both been drafted? Okay, I don't know. Probably both sign undrafted deals, though, if they choose to leave Iowa at the end of last season. They, in true Hawkeye fashion, made that decision. And I've said this a number of times right here on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Iowa, I think, as well or better than most or anybody in the Big Ten and in college football, the retention side is so good for the Hawkeyes. And in both of those two names, Logan Jones, Ethan Herkit, that retention on display. Guys that had that decision, if they wanted to go, they could have gone. They chose to come back to Iowa, and they will represent the Hawkeyes from Big Ten Media Days. And then the final puzzle piece for Iowa at Big Ten Media Days is Cohen Intringer, the rising defensive back for Iowa that, look, so much of the fortune for the Hawkeyes, a large portion of it for a defensive backfield that at times last season was not what Iowa fans have been accustomed to seeing. A lot of what you're hoping happens in a positive way for the Hawkeyes on that back end of Phil Parker's defense, that group that Phil Parker will be working hand in hand with very closely. A lot of that will depend on how much of a step forward does Cohen Intringer take in 2025. So he's the final puzzle piece headed to Big Ten Media Days for the Hawkeyes. Logan Jones, Ethan Herkit, couple of 6-year Hawkeyes, and then Cohen Intringer, who will step into, we think, right, a starting role. And when it's somebody that hasn't started a lot for a program and they get that media days designation, you feel like, okay, is that a sign that Kirk Ferentz, Phil Parker, and this defensive staff, this coaching staff as a whole, are they basically telling us, hey, yes, Cohen Intringer, he is a starter for the Hawkeyes in 2025? Because you look at it, and Cohen Intringer, he's played a lot for Iowa, 30 games played. He started once last season for Iowa, but that's it. That's the lone start for Cohen Intringer. He's got 27 career tackles, 1 pass breakup, 1 interception, a couple of passes defensed, and that lone interception that would have come last season, if you remember, early for Iowa during that Michigan State contest over in East Lansing. A game that I'm still trying to put the puzzle pieces back together of why Iowa didn't win that game versus Michigan State. But one of the big highlights was Cohen Intringer and his interception off of Aiden Childs. So, again, what do these 3 players represent for Iowa? Well, the stability, the retention for Iowa, the stick around and develop for the Hawkeyes in Logan Jones and in Ethan Herkit, and to that same degree for Cohen Intringer as well, who obviously is not somebody who just joined the program. He's been a part of this Iowa defense. He's been a part of developing with Phil Parker and company, and now is a junior out of Michigan, out of Walled Lake Western, Cohen Intringer. But that is the representation for the Hawkeyes at Big Ten Media Days. The couple of guys that have produced a ton for Iowa, they're 6-year guys. And then Intringer, who alongside, obviously, Xavier Wampa back there at the safety position, you're hoping those 2 guys are big-time anchors for the Hawkeyes at safety. Alongside, we'll see how corner shakes out for Iowa. Probably TJ Hall, Deshaun Lee, at least to start. Jalen Watson, okay. Could he factor in? That certainly is a possibility. Shaheed Barrows, as time rolls along throughout the summer and into fall camp, could Shaheed Barrows be a name that we're talking about in the defensive backfield? Maybe. We'll wait and see on all of that. But we know that Iowa, I think, is telling us Cohen Intringer, as we thought, going to be a big-time playmaker for the Hawkeyes in 2025. The goals for each of those guys, what are they entering 2025? For Logan Jones, a chance to come back and continue to refine his skill set and put himself in a position to be a long-term professional if he can continue to build upon the tape that he's already shown at Iowa. I think, obviously that's at stake for Logan Jones, and being a part of helping Iowa enhance its passing attack, get its passing attack back to where Iowa is truly a complementary football team, and not offense, defense, but complementary in the sense that it's not just Caleb Johnson rushing for nearly 1,600 yards. It's Iowa being able to pass protect and Logan Jones getting guys in the right spots to allow Gronowski to go feed these weapons on the outside. So that at stake for Logan Jones. Ethan Herkit, can he continue to build upon what has already been a nice Hawkeye career? You're basically counting upon Ethan Herkit being one of your best pass rushers this season alongside Max Llewellyn, who I think has a chance to be a big-time difference maker for the Hawkeyes. But can Ethan Herkit, can he continue to elevate? Can he approach double-figure sacks, TFLs? Is that a possibility? And if it is, then what does that mean for his professional future? And for Intringer, this is the big showcase probably in 2025. So the Iowa contingent, one final time in the open here. The 3 players that we know headed to Big Ten Media Days at the end of next month in Las Vegas. It'll be center Logan Jones. It will be defensive end Ethan Herkit, and it will be Cohen Intringer, the safety for the